The battlefield was silent now. Smoke still rose from broken ships and burning metal. The air smelled like dust and death. Among the ruins, a wounded alien soldier lay on the ground. His name was Kale, a scout from the Zorath Empire. His armor was cracked, and his left arm was bleeding green fluid. He had not moved for hours. Kale's squad was gone. His communicator was broken. His ship had exploded when human fighters attacked. He had tried to call for help, but no one came. He thought he was the only one left alive. He had heard stories about humans. The Zorath called them savages, dangerous, unpredictable. They said humans never took prisoners. They said humans fought like animals and destroyed everything they touched. Kale had believed those stories, until now when he had no one else to believe. Night came. The temperature dropped fast. Kale dragged himself under a piece of metal to hide from the cold wind. He felt weak. His vision blurred. He whispered to himself in his own language, a prayer to the stars asking for one more sunrise. He thought about his family light years away. He wondered if they would ever know what happened to him. Then, through the smoke, he heard footsteps. Slow, careful, not the sound of metal boots like Zorath soldiers. These steps were lighter, softer. Kyle froze. His heart raced. Maybe it was a scavenger, or one of the human soldiers coming back to finish the job. He grabbed a broken metal shard and waited. His breathing became shallow. The footsteps came closer. A shadow appeared. A figure stepped into the light of the burning wreckage. It was a human. A man in a torn uniform, face dirty, eyes sharp but calm. He looked tired but alive. He was holding a flashlight in one hand and a strange weapon in the other. Kyle pressed his back against the metal and held his shard up. "Stay back," he hissed weakly. The human pointed the light at him. For a few seconds, neither of them moved. Only the wind and the sound of distant fire broke the silence. Then the human spoke, his voice quiet but clear. "You're still alive?" Kyle didn't answer. His hand shook. The human slowly lowered his weapon. "I'm not here to kill you," he said. "If I wanted you dead, you already would be." Kyle didn't believe him. "Humans don't take prisoners." The man gave a small, dry laugh. "Yeah, I've heard that about us too." He took a step closer. Kyle tried to push himself back, but pain shot through his side. He gasped. The human kneeled beside him. He looked at Kyle's wound, then opened a small medkit from his belt. "What are you doing?" Kale asked, his voice weak. "Keeping you alive," the human said simply. Kale couldn't understand. Why would a human help him? They were enemies. The man sprayed something on Kale's wound. It burned, and Kale hissed in pain. The human worked fast, wrapping the wound with white bandage tape. When he was done, he looked at Kale again. "Can you walk?" Kale shook his head. "Why are you helping me?" The man didn't answer right away. He looked around as if listening for something. Then he said, "Because no one deserves to die out here alone." Kyle stared at him. He had never heard a human speak like that. Suddenly there was a sound in the distance. Engines. Loud, rough. The human's eyes widened. "They're coming back," he whispered. "Your people?" Kyle asked. The man looked at him. "No, yours." He quickly grabbed Kale's arm and tried to pull him up. Kyle groaned in pain. The man said, "If they find us together, they'll kill us both. You want to live? Move." Kale hesitated, then nodded. He didn't know why, but something in the human's voice felt real. They limped together through the ruins, hiding behind wrecked ships and burnt machines. The engines grew louder. Searchlights flashed across the smoke. Kyle's strength was fading again. He could barely stand. The human pulled him under a piece of crashed hull. "Stay quiet," he whispered. A Zorath patrol ship passed above them, scanning the area. Kale held his breath. If they found him with a human, he would be executed for treason. The ship passed. The noise faded. Kale looked at the man beside him. The enemy who had saved him. "Who are you?" Kale asked softly. The man looked back, his face half lit by the dying fire. "Name's Ryan," he said. "And you, my friend, are not dying tonight." Kale didn't know it then, but this was the moment everything changed. Kale woke to the sound of distant thunder. For a moment, he thought it was another bombing run, but then he realized it was just the storm. Cold rain fell from the dark sky, washing the dust and blood off his armor. He was lying inside the broken shell of an old cargo pod. His wound still hurt, but it was wrapped neatly. Ryan sat nearby, fixing a small fire made from broken ship panels. His uniform was wet. his face pale from exhaustion. He had not slept all night. When he saw Kyle open his eyes, he gave a small nod. "Good, you're alive." Kyle tried to sit up. His body ached. "Why did you bring me here?" he asked. Ryan shrugged. "It was the closest shelter I could find before the storm hit." "Your people were still searching the ruins." Kyle looked outside. The rain had turned the battlefield into a muddy wasteland. Smoke still rose in the distance. "If they find us, they'll kill you," Kyle said quietly. Ryan smiled faintly. "Yeah, I figured that part out." Kyle studied him. The human looked strange to him. No armor, no glowing eyes, no translator chip. Just flesh and bone. Weak-looking, yet somehow strong. "You could have left me," Kyle said. Ryan's expression darkened. "I could have. But I've seen too many bodies left behind already. I didn't want one more." They sat in silence for a while. The rain outside grew heavier. Kyle's stomach growled. Ryan opened his pack and threw him a small food bar. Kyle sniffed it. "This is human food." "Yeah, unless you'd rather starve," Ryan said. Kyle hesitated, then took a bite. It tasted strange, salty and dry, but it was food. After a few minutes, Kyle asked, "You said you were a soldier. Where is your unit?" Ryan stared into the fire. "Gone. We were ambushed during the retreat. I've been trying to reach the evac point, but the comms are dead. I thought I was the only one left until I found you." Kyle listened carefully. There was something in Ryan's voice, a quiet grief he recognized. Kyle had lost his own team too. Enemies or not, they shared the same emptiness now. Thunder rolled again. The fire flickered. Suddenly a sound came from outside, a low mechanical hum, followed by footsteps splashing through the mud. Ryan instantly grabbed his rifle and motioned Kyle to stay silent. He crawled to the opening of the pod and peered outside. Two figures moved through the rain, their helmets glowing blue. "Zorath scouts," Kyle whispered. "They'll scan for life signs." Ryan turned to him. "Then we need to move." Kyle shook his head. "I can't run." Ryan looked around quickly, thinking fast. Then he grabbed a dirty thermal blanket from his pack and threw it over Kyle. "This should block their scanners a bit. Don't move." Kyle did as he said. Ryan stepped out into the rain, crouching low behind a wrecked beam. The scouts were close now, speaking in a sharp alien language Kyle knew well. They were reporting something through their comms. One of them pointed toward the cargo pod. Ryan's grip tightened on his rifle. He didn't want to kill again, but if they found Kyle, there would be no choice. He waited until the first scout came near the pod. The alien raised a scanner, unaware of the human hidden in the dark. A loud crack of thunder covered the sound of the gunshot. The scout fell instantly, armor smoking. The second one turned and fired, blue plasma lighting up the rain. Ryan ducked behind cover, firing back. The blast hit the side of the wreck, showering sparks. Inside the pod, Kyle heard the fight. He wanted to help, but could barely move. He reached for the dead scout's weapon lying near the entrance. With effort, he pulled it in and aimed weakly toward the light outside. When the second scout stepped closer, Kyle fired. The plasma bolt hit the scout's leg, sending him to the ground. Ryan finished him with a quick shot. Silence returned. The rain washed away the smoke. Ryan leaned against the wreck, breathing hard. Kyle pushed himself up, pain shooting through his body. "You risked your life," he said. Ryan looked at him, half smiling. "So did you." He walked over and checked Kyle's bandages again. "We can't stay here anymore," Ryan said. "That patrol will be missed soon." Kyle nodded slowly. "There's an old supply station 10 kilometers east," he said. "If it's still standing, we can find shelter." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" Kyle looked out at the storm. "No, but it's better than waiting here to die." Ryan gave a short laugh. "That's the spirit." They gathered what little they had and stepped out into the cold rain. The storm raged around them, lightning flashing across the sky. Human and alien, once enemies, now walked side by side through the ruins of war. Neither of them knew that someone, or something, was watching from above, recording every step they took. The storm had passed by morning. The sky was grey, heavy with clouds. Ryan and Kyle had walked all night, their clothes soaked, their boots sinking into the wet ground. Every step felt heavier, but they didn't stop. Kyle's wound had started bleeding again. He tried not to show it, but Ryan noticed. "You need rest," Ryan said. Kyle shook his head. "If we stop now, the scouts will find us. Ryan sighed. You aliens really don't like taking breaks, huh? Kyle gave a weak smile. You humans don't know when to quit either. They kept moving until they reached a wide valley filled with broken machines and twisted metal. Once this had been a mining colony. Now it was a graveyard of ships and bones. The air smelled of rust and fuel. There, Kyle said, pointing toward a half-collapsed structure on a distant hill. That was the supply station. Ryan raised his scope and looked through it. The building was damaged but still standing. Let's hope there's something useful left inside, he said. As they crossed the valley, the ground shook slightly. Kyle frowned. Did you feel that? Ryan stopped. Yeah, maybe an aftershock from the bombardment. But then the ground shook again, stronger. Dust rose from the wrecks. Something large moved under the debris. Ryan raised his rifle, scanning the area. That's not an aftershock. A massive shape burst out of the ground, a mechanical drone, its armor black and scarred. One of its legs was broken, but its sensor lights were still glowing red. It was an old autonomous war drone left behind after the battle. Kyle shouted, "It's still active!" The drone turned its sensors toward them and released a loud metallic screech. Its cannon powered up with a high-pitched whine. Ryan grabbed Kyle and dove behind a pile of metal as a plasma blast tore through the air, melting everything it touched. "We need to disable it," Ryan said. Kyle groaned. "You think?" The human peered from behind cover. "You know its weak spots?" Kyle nodded weakly. "The power core is under the main sensor plate. But it's heavily shielded." Ryan looked around and spotted a half-buried missile tube near them. "That might work," he said. He crawled toward it, staying low as the drone fired again. The heat burned his skin. Kyle tried to distract the drone by throwing a metal piece in another direction. The machine turned and fired, giving Ryan a few seconds to reach the missile tube. He opened the panel, hoping it still worked. Inside, the small screen flickered to life. Come on, Ryan muttered, pressing buttons. The old system responded with a slow beep. "Ryan," Kyle shouted. "It's moving toward you." The drone stomped closer, heavy legs shaking the ground. Ryan aimed the tube directly at it and hit the ignition command. The missile shot out with a roar, slamming into the drone's chest. The explosion threw both of them backward. When the smoke cleared, the drone was lying on its side, burning. Its red sensors flickered once, then died. Ryan coughed, sitting up. "Well, that worked." Kyle leaned against the wreck, breathing hard. "You're insane, human," Ryan laughed quietly. "I've been told that before." They stayed still for a while, catching their breath. The sun began to break through the clouds, light reflecting off the wet metal around them. After a few minutes, they reached the supply station. The doors were jammed, but Ryan forced them open with a metal rod. Inside, everything was dark and cold. Dust floated in the air like smoke. Kale limped inside, scanning the room with his visor. "This place has been untouched for cycles," he said. Ryan found some old crates and broke one open. Inside were sealed packs of food and power cells. "Looks like we got lucky." Kyle sat on the floor, tired. "You humans rely too much on luck," he said. Ryan smiled. "And yet, here we are." They set up a small camp inside, lighting a weak fire. For the first time since the battle, they felt a small bit of safety. Kale looked at Ryan. "Why do you keep helping me?" he asked again. Ryan poked the fire with a metal stick. "Because I've seen too much hate already. Maybe this war doesn't have to end with everyone dead." Kale looked at him for a long moment, then said softly, "You're different from the others." Ryan didn't answer. He looked tired, like a man carrying too many ghosts. Suddenly, Kyle's visor beeped. He tapped it and frowned. "What is it?" Ryan asked. Kale's voice was tense. "Someone just activated a long-range scanner near us." Ryan stood up. "Human or Zorath?" Kale looked at the data. His eyes widened. "Neither." A deep hum filled the air. The walls of the station vibrated. Ryan grabbed his weapon, looking at the ceiling. "What the hell is that?" Kyle looked at him, fear in his eyes for the first time. Something that wasn't supposed to be here. Outside, in the grey sky, a massive shadow passed overhead. Not human, not Zorath. Something ancient had just awakened. The air inside the old station began to tremble. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the floor vibrated like something heavy was moving above them. Ryan grabbed his rifle, eyes fixed on the roof. Kale checked his visor, scanning the readings. "It's big," Kale said quietly. "At least 200 meters wide. Not a drone. Not a ship I know, Ryan frowned. You said it's not Zorath or human. Then what is it? Kale didn't answer. His visor showed strange symbols, unknown energy patterns that made no sense. I don't know, he said. It's old. Very old. A low hum echoed through the station, deep enough to shake their bones. Ryan turned off the fire and motioned for silence. The hum changed to a slow pulse like a heartbeat. Then, through the broken ceiling, a blue light flashed across the walls. It wasn't a searchlight. It moved in patterns like scanning symbols. Kyle whispered, "It's scanning for life." Ryan clenched his jaw. Great. Seems like we're popular today. The light passed over them once, then twice. Kyle quickly adjusted his armor settings and powered down his visor. Don't move. It might detect energy signals. They both stayed perfectly still. The blue light faded after a few seconds, but the hum continued, fading slowly into the distance. After a long silence, Ryan exhaled. You think it's gone? Kyle shook his head. No, it's circling, searching. Ryan looked toward the exit. We can't stay here, Kyle agreed. If it finds us, it could call reinforcements, whatever kind they are. Ryan grabbed his pack and helped Kale to his feet. They moved quietly through the back corridor, their footsteps soft on the metal floor. The walls were covered with old Zorath markings. This station had once been part of the first invasion. As they passed a broken doorway, Kyle noticed something strange, burn marks on the walls, but not from plasma fire. The metal looked melted in perfect round shapes. He touched one. These are fresh. Ryan looked closer. So whatever that thing is, it's been here before us. They reached a loading tunnel that led to the outside. Ryan peered out. The valley below was quiet, but the sky had a faint blue glow in the clouds above. Let's move before that thing comes back, he said. They started down the hill, moving between wrecks and shadows. The ground was slippery and Kyle stumbled several times. Ryan helped him without a word. The silence between them was no longer awkward. It was trust built in fire. Halfway across the valley, Kale suddenly stopped. His eyes widened. Ryan! Look, Ryan followed his gaze. A few meters ahead, half buried in the mud, was a body, a Zorath officer. The armor was old and covered in strange burn marks. But what shocked them both was the symbol burned into the metal chest plate. It was the same pattern they had just seen glowing in the station, the same blue symbol. Ryan crouched beside the body. Whoever attacked this one? It wasn't human. Kale knelt down too. His voice was tense. It's a mark of the ancients. I've only seen it in data archives, a lost race that vanished before either of our species reached the stars. Ryan frowned. You mean ghosts? Kyle shook his head. Worse. Machines they left behind, sentinels, protectors of their ruins. If they are awake again, then something has disturbed their world. Ryan looked up at the sky. The blue glow was spreading, forming a circle of light. Maybe us. Before Kale could respond, a sharp tone echoed in the distance, a rising metallic scream. Ryan turned and saw beams of blue energy cutting through the clouds. The ground began to shake again. Run! Kyle shouted. They sprinted through the ruins, ducking as shards of metal and stone fell around them. Behind them, a massive shape broke through the mist, something with long limbs of silver and glowing eyes like suns. It moved like liquid metal, smooth and terrifying. Ryan fired his rifle at it, but the bullets bounced off harmlessly. Kale pulled out his plasma pistol and fired. The creature slowed for a second, then let out another piercing sound that shook their helmets. It's not attacking, Ryan shouted. It's scanning us. Kale's visor flashed with warnings. It's reading our DNA. Before they could react, the machine projected a blue light that wrapped around both of them. Kale felt his body freeze, every muscle locked. Ryan tried to move but couldn't. The light grew brighter until everything went white. Then, silence. When Kyle opened his eyes, the world had changed. The sky was gone. The air was still. They were standing in a wide metallic chamber, filled with floating lights and holographic symbols. Ryan looked around in disbelief. Where the hell are we? Kyle's voice shook. Inside it. The sentinel brought us aboard. Ryan turned toward the glowing wall in front of them. The lights began to move, forming a shape, a tall figure made of energy, its voice deep and echoing. Two species, it said slowly. One built on conquest, one built on survival, both standing on the edge of extinction. Ryan stared at it. What do you want from us? The light flickered, and the figure leaned closer. To remember, it said, and to choose. The chamber darkened, and the floor beneath them began to shift. The chamber was silent, except for the soft hum of the glowing walls. Ryan and Cale stood side by side, staring at the tall figure of light before them. It had no face, no solid shape, only shifting patterns of blue and silver energy. Kyle whispered, "This can't be real." The Sentinels were only legends. The figure turned its gaze toward him. "We were never legends. We were warnings." Ryan took a step forward. "If you're real, then tell us what you want. Why bring us here?" The glowing figure moved closer, and the air around them vibrated. "Because your war woke us. The energy of your weapons pierced our world's silence. You have broken the balance." Ryan frowned. "Balance? What balance?" the voice echoed. "The balance between creation and destruction. Your species and his have done nothing but fight, consume, and forget. You destroy what you do not understand." Cale looked down, guilt flashing across his eyes. "We were at war because of fear, because we thought humans were dangerous." Ryan let out a dry laugh. "You weren't wrong about that." The figure extended its hand, and the floor beneath them shifted. Suddenly the walls turned transparent, showing a view of the planet below. From up here they could see the wasteland, the smoke, the fire, the broken ships scattered across the surface. "Your world," the figure said, "once full of life. Now it lies dying under your hands." Ryan stared at the sight. He had seen the destruction from the ground, but from this height it looked endless. He clenched his fists. "We didn't mean for it to happen like this." The Sentinel's light dimmed. "Meaning changes nothing. You are both part of this decay, but you may also be the key to something else." Cale looked up. "What do you mean?" The figure's tone softened. "You are enemies, yet you chose to save one another. That act is rare. It is different. Perhaps the only thing that can stop what is coming." Ryan stepped forward. "What's coming?" The light flickered, showing quick images in the air. Flashes of huge ships, burning cities, and collapsing stars. "Your war has awakened more than us. The ones who destroyed the ancients are returning. They will finish what they started." Cale's voice was low. "You mean another race?" "Not a race," the Sentinel said. "A hunger. Machines that consume everything. Flesh, metal, energy. They do not stop." Ryan's stomach turned. "You're saying both our species are next?" The figure nodded. "Yes, unless you change your path." The light dimmed again, and a strange platform rose from the floor. 2 glowing crystals appeared, one red, one blue. Kyle frowned. "What are those?" The voice spoke slowly. 2 choices. The red core will wipe all living life from this world. It will end the conflict by ending both sides. No more pain. No more war. Ryan stared at the red crystal, horrified. "That's not a choice. That's genocide," the Sentinel continued. "The blue core will unite your species, merge your knowledge, your technology, your history. But once done, there will be no going back. Humans and Zorath will become one." Cale's face went pale. "That's impossible." "Our bodies, our minds, they're different," the Sentinel replied. "Different but compatible. Your survival depends on cooperation, not division." Ryan looked at Cale. "So, we either die or lose what we are." Kyle met his eyes. "Both choices mean the end of something." They stood in silence for a moment. The light around them pulsed like a heartbeat, waiting. Ryan finally spoke. "If this blue thing can really stop the war, then maybe it's worth it." Kyle shook his head. "You don't understand. My people will see it as surrender. They'll never accept it." Ryan took a deep breath. "Then we don't tell them. We just do it." Cale looked at him sharply. "You would risk your entire species' future without asking them?" Ryan's eyes hardened. "If it means saving them from extinction, yes." Cale turned back to the crystals. "And what if it's a lie? What if this thing is just using us?" The Sentinel's voice echoed softly. "Doubt is the last defense of the dying." Ryan reached toward the blue crystal. "I'm not letting humanity die." Cale grabbed his arm. "Wait." Ryan looked at him. "You said you wanted peace." Kyle hesitated, torn between duty and hope. He looked at the glowing crystals, then back at Ryan. Finally, he said quietly, "If we do this—" "There's no turning back," Ryan nodded. "Then let's make it count." Together, they placed their hands on the blue crystal. The chamber filled with light so bright, it felt like the sun itself was exploding around them. Ryan felt his mind pulled apart and rebuilt at the same time. Memories flashed, his past, Kyle's past, voices, faces, pain and laughter, all blending into one. Then came silence. When the light faded, they were no longer two. They stood as one being, human and Zorath fused into something new. Their eyes glowed faintly blue. The sentinel watched them silently. "The choice is made," it said. "Now your world will change." Or end trying. The chamber began to shake and cracks of energy spread through the floor. Ryan, or whatever he had become, looked at his hands. "What have we done?" he whispered. The sentinel's final words echoed through the light. "You have begun the future." The light faded slowly. The air was still, silent, heavy. Kale and Ryan were gone. At least the versions of them that had entered the sentinel's chamber. Now there was only one. He stood in the center of the glowing room, breathing softly. His body was half human, half Zorath, skin pale with faint blue veins, eyes bright and calm like starlight. His thoughts were strange, mixed. Human memories merged with alien logic, pain mixed with hope. He was both, and he was neither. The sentinel's voice echoed softly. "You are the bridge now, the first of your kind." The hybrid looked at his reflection in the metallic floor. "Ryan? Kyle?" he said slowly. Both names felt familiar. Both belonged to him. "What happens now?" The sentinel's form began to fade. "Now you show them what they can become or what they will destroy." The floor split open, revealing a column of light. The hybrid stepped inside and in a flash he was gone. He awoke on the surface again, lying in the ruins of the supply station. The sky was calm, glowing orange with the morning sun. The battlefield was silent except for the wind. He stood up slowly. His body felt stronger, lighter. His wounds were gone. He looked around confused until he saw the distant shapes of ships moving across the horizon, human ships and Zorath ships, both converging on the same area. They were coming to fight again. He started walking toward them. Every step left a faint blue mark on the ground. His mind filled with voices, human commanders, Zorath generals, echoes of war. He could hear both sides now. He could understand them all. When he reached the open field, the armies were already facing each other. Tanks, drones, and soldiers lined up, ready for another round of destruction. Then someone saw him. A human soldier shouted, "Target sighted!" Unknown life form. Weapons turned toward him from both sides. The hybrid raised his hands. His voice was calm, but it carried across the battlefield like thunder. "Stop!" Everyone froze. Not because of the sound, but because of what they saw. His face looked human, but his eyes were alien. His voice was both familiar and strange. A Zorath commander stepped forward. "What are you?" The hybrid looked at him. "I am what you both created." The human general shouted, "Is this some kind of trick?" Fire, but when they tried to shoot, their weapons failed. Every system on the battlefield went dark at once. Tanks stopped, drones crashed, ships froze in the air. A blue energy field spread across the ground like lightning. The hybrid spoke again, voice steady. "You have one last chance. Continue fighting and everything ends. Work together and something new begins." No one moved. The soldiers stared, unsure what to believe. The Zorath commander slowly lowered his weapon. "You speak of peace." The hybrid nodded. "Not peace, evolution." The commanders looked at each other. Some shouted in anger. Others watched in silence. But before they could decide, the sky above them began to glow. A massive object broke through the clouds. Black, silent, endless. It wasn't a ship. It was something older, something alive in its own way. The hunger the sentinel had spoken of had arrived. The hybrid turned toward it. "They're here." Panic spread through both armies. The creature released a deep roar, shaking the air. From its body fell hundreds of smaller drones, dark and sharp like blades. They began tearing through everything, metal, ground, and air. The hybrid raised his hands, blue light forming around them. Energy pulsed out in waves, hitting the drones and freezing them mid-air. He gritted his teeth. "I can hold them." But not for long. The Zorath commander shouted, "What do we do?" The hybrid looked at him and the human general. "Fight together. Not for empire. For survival." For a moment no one moved. Then one human soldier shouted, "Cover him!" Plaster fire erupted, humans and Zorath side by side. The hybrid sent another wave of blue light, creating a shield around them. The battlefield glowed with strange unity. Enemies fighting as one. Minutes felt like hours. The sky burned with fire and light. One by one, the Hunger's drones exploded under the combined assault. Finally, the main creature let out a last roar and vanished into the clouds, leaving only silence behind. The soldiers stood still, staring at the hybrid who had saved them. He dropped to one knee, exhausted. His body flickered between human and Zorath, the merge breaking apart. The commanders ran toward him. The human general knelt beside him. "Who are you?" The hybrid smiled weakly. "Ryan, Kyle, maybe both." Kyle's voice came through faintly. "Tell them." "It's not about who wins. It's about who learns." The light around him began to fade. His body dissolved into particles of blue energy, spreading into the sky like